We are back for a way overdue episode of Bash in the Brain. And usually, people are asking why we don't do shows with more regularity. The problem is not to put all the blame on you, but when I do text you and say, let's do a show, you respond with a political meme. And that process goes on for a couple weeks.
I've been on one. I certainly overdue, and I'm certain, I hear the criticism. I see it on message boards and stuff. It's like, well, Willie stuff's great, but it's not with regularity. And that's certainly true in the summertime. Although, I was cranking away, big board, recruiting class rankings. Then I did this recruiting class deep dive into 10 years of recruiting, and it was like I was cooked. I went under a rock for a few days.
Well, and I defend you because of that. You aren't just I am simply pretty much a creator or commentator. I'm either commentating with you or I'm bringing athletes on and talking with them. But you're also doing a lot of off-air work in rankings and big boards, and it's hard to, to juggle that, especially when you're kind of answering to yourself and you don't really – neither of us have anybody that we have to report to except for the fans. Yeah. Did you do a show? Did you get this out?
Yeah, it's difficult, and plus, especially when I always keep weird hours, but when I'm neck deep in research data stuff and geeking out on that stuff, my sleep schedule's all jacked up, and I want to do a show, and I don't want to do a show. I want to do a show, but I don't want to do it alone. But then I'm sleeping all day when my
you go to sleep when I wake up.
Yeah. So it's been goofy, and it gets like that. It gets like that when I am doing intensive research and in the summer when things are sort of irregular. But there's a lot of, there's obviously not a whole lot of heck of a lot of results to talk about. The most recent things really have been cadet and junior duels and some Pan Am U23 stuff. But so there's not a whole heck of a lot of actual wrestling to talk about on the mat, but there's certainly a lot to talk about in the periphery. People moving different places, recruiting, pro leagues. Where do you want to start? There's a lot to talk about, actually.
Yeah, and that's why this episode was really when I texted you. I said I have no run of the show. I have no idea, really, aside from let's just do a summer catch-up, and we'll kind of just give some thoughts on recent headlines and things that are coming up. We are, believe it or not, 6 weeks from the Olympics. And I don't know about you, but it does not feel like that. I see hype for swimming and track and field, and wrestling seems like it's just...
Yeah, there hasn't been a whole lot of hype for wrestling, has there? And I don't know what they could do or should do, but certainly been quiet.
I think part of it, from a marketing standpoint, if I had to guess, putting my marketing hat on, I think part of it is if you look at people that they heavily targeted to market, Adeline Gray did not make the team. Jordan Burroughs did not make the team. David Taylor did not make the team. There's a lot of stuff that was done that is never going to see the light of day right now.
Perhaps, but having new faces instead of the old guard is a reason they should really buckle up and
I agree.
Tell the stories of the new people. We know Jordan Burroughs' story. We know Adeline's story. It'd be great to get some promo of Joe Rowell. Joe Rowell's story is awesome, right?
Yeah, and you still have so many incredible storylines. You got Snyder going to his third Olympics, Helen going to her third Olympics. You got Brooks, who's, beat David Taylor. Kenny beat Yazdani. You got Dake. Dake's won so much, but not Olympic gold. You do have the storylines are definitely there. It's not for lack of storylines.
I just don't see a lot of promo and hype about it.
Either do I.
I did get an email the other day that
July 8th.
I don't even know what.
Yeah.
There's a press conference or a meet and greet or get to know the Olympians in Colorado Springs.
There's a media day. Second week of July. Yeah.
Is that when it is?
Yeah, July 8th was my brother's birthday. I do, I've asked some of the Olympians if they want to come on, and it seems like it's let's do it after I win. Let's do it after I win. And I don't fault them. I know they have obligations as it is, and but
I don't know who told you that, but that is, to me, that's such a wrestling response.
It is 100%, and I tell them I don't agree with it. You should
probably. I mean, Aaron AB was on with you not too long ago. I don't know who told you that. I don't want to offend Kyle Snyder or offend anybody on the Olympic team that told you that, but it comes with an obligation, I think. Right?
There is
you make the team. Don't just defer. Build yourself. Do it for the. I don't know.
The one thing I do know,
but you owe it to everybody.
Yeah, the one thing I do know is that it's very hard to market the Olympics. As an organization, you cannot even really say Olympics. You can't use the Olympics logo. There is so much blackballing that goes on for companies and organizations that I do think they're almost like this juice isn't even worth the squeeze. Not that I don't think we're going to see more as we get closer. I mean, 6 weeks seems like now is the time I would start ramping things up, especially, there's a couple sports where Americans are obviously heavily favored, but wrestling has to be one of the biggest ones where if you look at especially men's freestyle and women's freestyle and how many medals we could walk away with.
Hey, all right, well, first, yes, but the Olympic branding thing, which is legit, to me is not a reason for Kyle Snyder to not do an interview. Right, or
it wasn't Snyder who said it. Stop using him as people are going to think it's Snyder.
Well, there's only 6 of them. Zane, I don't know.
Maybe women. Maybe Greco. Maybe we're going to have my first Greco guy on the podcast.
Right. Whoever it is, anybody that made the Olympic teams that said, let's do it later, I think it's the wrong decision. I think you should be telling your story now when people care. I mean, they certainly care after you win, but that reminds me, though. So, the question is, why don't we see more Olympic hype? I don't know. It seems like in the past we had.
It seems quieter this time around, right?
Quieter, yeah. But that reminds me, and this is a sidebar, but I've always, for years, have said that wrestling screws it up as far as, I think they shoot themselves in the foot. They don't get out of their own way. They don't set up this wrestling season, even the seasons they can't get right. But I was thinking about it again the other day, and wrestling would be so much better if the powers that be got together and said that the seasons should be different. Like the college. Why isn't college wrestling in the summertime?
It's a winter sport. You mean like
it's a winter sport? It's in the Summer Olympics.
So if anything, the Summer Olympics wrestling should go to the Winter Olympics.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. But what would behoove wrestling is for the college. Is for college and seniors to not be on the same schedule as high school. For high school, and it's a high school ones that should really do it, but high school should not be on the same schedule as college because it just overlaps the fan bases. Every time you want to, why isn't the ACCs well attended? Well, 90% of those people are at the state tournament for Johnny.
It's true.
But
speaking of Olympics, Sadulaev and Sidakov out.
Yeah, that is crazy. Obviously they're out because some sort of involvement in the involvement or support of the Russian invasion of Ukraine. But that's going to open the door for some other entries to get in. But what I don't understand, and to be honest, I didn't look it up. Why can't Russia just send a person at that weight as opposed to some other nation getting the bid?
That I don't
You know
know.
what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I mean, they only gave, it was like 10 guys from Russia and like less than 10 from Belarus, like it for all of wrestling. Like it wasn't much. And as soon as that initial eligible list came out, which Sidakov was not on, Magomadov was not on, Sadulaev was not on, there was initial rumblings of like, oh, this isn't final. This is just who's eligible right now. And then a couple days later, some of the foreign accounts I follow were like, yeah, this seems like it's going to be pretty permanent. Like these guys aren't going to be at the Olympics, which for American, that's huge for Dake and huge for Snyder. Huge. I wish they were going in. As much as I want our guys to win gold, you want the full field. You want all these guys there.
Yuguyev's out too, right?
Yeah, he's out too.
That's the three best.
Yeah.
So it was supposed to be Taz. Wasn't Snyder?
Taz, Snyder, Sadulaev all on the bottom.
All on the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
I thought they were 1, 4, 5. But anyway, they were all together.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's huge for Snyder.
Or maybe they're in the top.
Yeah, whatever it was, they were all grouped together. But man, that's huge for Snyder. Huge for USA, really.
No, Snyder was 3.
Yeah, it was like 2, 3, 6 or something.
Yeah, 2, 3, 7. Yeah.
2, 3. Yeah. Yep. So, it's big for the United States. Not just in Kyle Snyder's path, but it makes it more likely he at least medals, which is huge points when you get to the medal thing.
God bless you.
Me.
Yeah, it stinks that they're not going. Great for Snyder and Dake, especially because Sidakov and Sadulaev, have had the best of our guys. Sidakov beat Dake, beat Burroughs. Sadulaev beat Snyder last time.
For me, I don't want to get into global politics, but for me, I don't agree with it. Are we going to start? We're going to start pointing fingers and assigning blame. Who's in the right? Who's in the wrong? Over territorial disputes. How about when the United States? Put it this way? What if the United States, when we went to like Iraq, if like the IOC, the world narrative was, oh, USA shouldn't do that. USA's out for the Olympics. Right? And it's not even like, and like Kyle Snyder tweeted like, go USA military or something like that. And Kyle Snyder was out. That's stupid. But a little bit, I'm not going to cry too much for Russia on this occasion. I don't agree with it, but I'm not going to cry too much on this occasion because they got away with doping for years. They should have been out before, right? So, like, whatever. It's like wronging a right or righting a wrong,
it's a little karma for Russian. It's a little karma for Russia. So, yeah, I wish the guys were going to the extent of, as a wrestling fan, you want the full fields. It kind of stinks, especially listen to the whiners talk about asterisks and this and that. Part of wrestling is health and timing and showing up. And if other guys don't show up.
There was a Penn State fan with a real zinger the other day. The Penn State and Iowa message boards, they get heated back and forth. The Penn State guys going on the Iowa board, and a couple of Iowa guys going on the Penn State board, and they've been playing nice lately, though. It's really nice to see. And Oklahoma State's boards now are a little bit more active, and they all get along pretty well. And Penn State, Iowa, much more getting along than usual. But there was a time when a couple really salty Iowa fans when Gilman, maybe even before he was going to Worlds or right after he won Worlds, they were like, well, that's an asterisk because this guy wasn't there and that guy wasn't there. So a Penn State fan the other day preemptively said, hey, is there an asterisk on this one because Iguyev isn't there? And they were like, get off our boards.
You've been around as long as I have on the internet. Have you been in message board and forums since the late 90s?
I'll never forget. It was a day that changed my life. Literally a day that changed my life. I was staying at Brian Snyder's house, and there was another kid that we hung out with. He was like all area basketball. He was like one of the best in the area in basketball. And there was another kid named Jamar Billman, who was a 3-time All-American for Penn State. And we were going to, the next morning, we were staying at Snyder's house. We were going to Ocean City, Maryland the next day. It was like around this time. And true to what I'm talking about at the top of the show is that I don't sleep. These dudes fell asleep. I was up all night, like 3 o'clock in the morning. You remember that old ass game called like I don't know. You had to avoid the mine. You had to
Minesweeper?
I mean, this is Minesweeper, right? So I was playing that, and something popped up like on the internet, and I'm like, what the hell is this? And it was the Matt.com message boards. And Barry Snyder, Brian's dad, apparently had looked at these message boards. So I'm like, what's this? People are talking about wrestling? Like all the time? Dude, changed my life. I never got off a message board since. I was like 17 years old.
Fun fact, when I was wrestling at Spencerport in the early 2000s, I was already doing internet website stuff, and we were installing vBulletin, PHPBB, all these forums that were coming out like the early 2000s. And I used to be on Arm Drag's forum, shout out Section 5.
Yeah.
But man, that was like, you can actually, I think if you Google my name, like I did an article on Arm Drag in like 2003, recapping sectionals.
Yeah.
Somebody just sent it to me the other day. I'm like, that's crazy. It's 21 years ago, dating me. Yeah. Nobody loves the forums more than you, though.
They changed my life because I was like, we went to all the top tournaments. I was lucky enough to like wrestle in the first Ironman. I was, went to a high school that was ranked number 1 in the country at one point. Wrestled in the first Ironman, wrestled the first Reno. We had guys on our team that went on to AA in college. But you were stuck with, a magazine that came in the mail like 2 weeks after everything happened. And, to stumble across people talking wrestling in real time, I was like over the moon, and I was just hooked.
Is there anybody that you talk to on message boards that's been around that long? I feel like a lot of it, the evolution is like parents, and then they kind of fade away as their kids out of the sport a bit.
Right. And there's not a whole heck of a lot. There might be like a handful. There might be 2 or 3, but there's not a whole heck of a lot that were there in the beginning that are now.
Half your text start with on the message boards, comma.
Dude, I love it. I don't know. People say I'm like sadistic. Like,
all right, let's talk about one topic that's on the message boards and Twitter is AJ Ferrari. And it's funny because running Baschamania, which is just a podcast, but I share out relevant news, around the sport. Not only was AJ Ferrari a guest on the podcast, I also think it's pretty relevant. When a guy who wrestled 1 season and was an NCAA champ and has 3 years of eligibility remaining, regardless of how or why, and he says, I'm going to do this, I think it's worth sharing. And you get a lot of mixed reactions. You get a lot of pass the dice on this kid. I don't care. At the same time, it's very relevant, and where he goes will make a big impact.
It will. I mean, he's floating the idea of Northern Colorado. Your first point, of course, it's relevant and potentially impactful to even a team race, depending upon where he goes. So bigger picture stuff. But he's floating the idea of Northern Colorado. There's a lot of idiot takes right now. One is that, like, oh, who cares? Who cares about AJ Ferrari? It's not a story. The other one, and we could talk about this like next or something, but the Bo Bassett hate is just stupid.
Yeah, we'll talk about that too.
But AJ floats this idea, and he took pictures that he was there and everything of Northern Colorado, but I was told almost a year ago at this time, I was told Northern Colorado wasn't in play for AJ, despite AJ saying it was. But he was there, so maybe it's maybe it's in play now. I don't know.
I think also when you talk about the team race, it's not just about what will he do for the team he goes to, it's will he take points away from other teams. Sure. And when you look at who everybody else has and how lineups kind of shake out, it's extremely relevant. You got Penn State, Iowa with guys who, Penn State's going to be throwing out new blood at 197. Glazier, I think you have in your crystal ball at like top 8. You got Christian Carroll now at Iowa State. You got to update your crystal ball. I think you still got him at Oklahoma State. So, yeah, it's definitely, I think if you don't care, so be it. That doesn't make it not relevant.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of, from Jump Street, I've always been when they started saying Carter at 97, I'm like, no, he's going to go 84.
I don't think he goes up to 97.
That's just he's not going to wrestle. He's not going to wrestle 97 walking around at 91.
How come you didn't put him in your crystal ball? Because you don't know which weight to put him at? Is he not in there? I don't. If I didn't put him in there, it's because you've got Barr. You've got for Penn State. You've got Barr at 84, and you got Cochran at 97.
Then I did that before Carter announced he came back. He was coming back.
Got it. Yeah, it has been a while, hasn't it? You did those in like April.
Yeah.
We need a crystal ball update. That's what we need with all these.
Because at the time I did it, I remember at the time I did it, Carter apparently. So this will date when I did it. It was right after the time of the banquet, Penn State Wrestling Club banquet.
Yep.
And apparently the message words were in a tizzy, like Carter told everybody in attendance that he was done. So I didn't put him in. But, that's talking about AJ. I just don't think that Carter goes 97. I think he goes 84. But we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, there's been so many lineup changes and moves. I mean, it's funny looking at your crystal ball now. I just pulled it up. I mean, you got some of these guys, like Christian Carroll at Oklahoma State. I know that was kind of recent. But it's going to be interesting, even Cam Amin at Michigan. You got some of these. We need a crystal ball update. Let's get on that since you're not doing anything else.
And I think still on the website, I think, is Parco at Arizona State.
Yeah.
Yep. So, and then, a lot of times people say, well, why you do it so early? You're just going to have to change it. Yeah, well, so I'll change it. So what?
That's also the fun. It's going to be fun now to see now that you've done it. So anybody listening, go on Rockfin and look at this, because I'd be very interested to see when you do an update, just putting where guys went and seeing the change. You should do it before and after. You should do the team projections and then how they change, because I'm very curious how this changes now with all these lineup changes.
Hey, you want to hear the latest?
Yes.
On the Iowa message boards?
Yes.
So there has been just craziness on the Iowa board saying that Teemer, this guy was teasing somebody's coming that there's graduate transfer, and he was teasing it, and then he was just like, yeah, it's Teemer, right? And so that obviously hasn't materialized yet.
Can I ask you? I had somebody text me and say, I'm hearing rumors of Teemer leaving Arizona State and maybe going to Iowa with Parco. How is that possible? And I said, I have no clue. How is that possible?
I don't know that it is. And there's really fuzzy. I said this on a podcast, the last one I did. It's really a pain in the butt because, as a guy that does podcasts, you want to have the information. You want to know, right? You want a definitive answer, and it's tough to go on a show and talk about a topic that you don't have clear answers on. And there's just no literature. There's just no NCAA guidelines on wrestling portal in the second semester and or clarity on the grad transfers, because it used to be that grad transfers could go at any time because they graduated, but that is not the case anymore. They changed that.
That's what I
Even
thought.
as a grad student, you have to go into the portal. So I don't know what Ja'Cory's path would be if he was to pursue that. Now, there is a second semester portal. Would he be able to not wrestle the first semester and wrestle for Iowa starting like after January?
Right.
Is that a possibility? Maybe. I just don't know. I'm not convinced that Ja'Cory's going anywhere. It's a possibility, but it's been a possibility from Jump Street. It has been talked about from Jump Street. And the initial plan for Iowa, they almost didn't take Parco because they said, we want Parco. We want both of you or none of you. And then eventually they changed and Parco went. Mm-hmm. Right? So it's been, from Jump Street, it's been Teemer, Iowa courting Teemer. So it doesn't come out of the dark. That has been discussed. Now, he hasn't done it. He hasn't entered the portal. So we'll see. But the newest one, the one that was just posted today, was Jory Volk. Jory Volk's coming to Iowa. That's what the Iowa message boards are saying, which to me is really far-fetched. Here's why it's far-fetched. Because Volk is uber tight with Poulsen, right? Whose sister is married to Mark Branch. And Jory Volk's doing just fine at Wyoming. Also, Jory Volk's not in the portal.
Right.
And not close to being a grad student. Okay? So to me, that's totally far-fetched. Now, could it be Iowa guys fishing for a solution at 25? The backdrop here, the other story here is that Drake, I think Drake's going 33, bro. Drake's going to go 33. Because now there's these rumors about Jory. I can tell you without hesitation, they made an offer. Iowa made a substantial offer to Matt Ramos to come as their 25-pounder, and Ramos said no.
Wow.
Heard it here first.
So who do they put at 25 if Drake goes to 33?
I mean, I think they're I don't know. I think they're really, really searching for a solution at 25, which will allow Drake to go 33. And I think if they don't find it, Drake will try to make 25 again effectively.
He'd be so much fun at 33.
And 33 is sort of a weird weight too. Uh, it's not incredibly deep right now, although Lucas Bird comes back. But man, Iowa is in play for everybody. I mean, they offer everybody. They offer people that are in the portal, out of the portal, just in the portal, grad transfer.
What grade would you give them on getting and landing some of these guys, though? Because that seems like that's where the problem is.
I don't think they have a tremendous batting average. They tried to get Carroll. They tried to get Ramos. Didn't get him. They tried vigorously to get Carroll. Like, some of the conversations I heard were ridiculous. They are currently trying to get D. Lockett. They tried to get Bernie, right? So, now they did hit a home run, in my opinion, with Franek and Caliendo.
And if it plays out, I think the Parco move, though I know he only has, 1 year left, but I think that's a great get for them at 49 this year.
I think if you can do it, why not do it? I don't know how much of a tremendous impact it makes. Now, me and Fellers were talking about it. He was like, "It's stupid. Why spend money? You're not going to win."
Well, the caveat to my saying it's good is I'm not putting a number associated to what they pay. If Parco just wanted to transfer and go to Iowa, awesome for Iowa. If Iowa gave him some stupid number to come, that's a completely different. And I think that's
for 1 year.
That's what I think Feller's big, at least in our group chat when we were talking about it. It's more so it's not his. He thinks Parco could be great for Iowa. But what's the value of a specific number or whatever?
That's why they wanted Teemer with it. Because it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to pay a significant amount of money to Kyle Parco for 1 year. However, when you consider that they got a pile of cash sitting there, and if they don't spend it, it's basically wasted. Number one. Number two, I mean, if somebody gave you $100 to go get dinner, you wouldn't make a ham sandwich and keep the $100 for next year.
I'd go get a brisket. I'd go buy a brisket. I'd get some garlic bread.
Right? So that money's going to be there regardless. And if you use it, it's going to get replenished. So it's a no-lose situation.
You talked about Bo Bassett, and now I want to keep bringing that up because
another point in their defense is you don't know what's going to come down the line. So you get Parco now, and then you pick up maybe another piece down the road, and then you pick up maybe another piece. And so it's not just Kyle Parco, it's Kyle Parco for now, and then we'll add extra pieces.
Yeah. Again, the number, and it's interesting because the number's not disclosed, and that obviously adds so much color to what the value of a deal is or how good it's in the NFL and free agency. We know what people are paying for an athlete, and we commentate for that money. That's stupid. For that money, great deal. Whatever the case may be. Wrestling, it's like
I agree, and I thought the numbers that were thrown around for some guys was relatively ridiculous. But again, let's say the number is $1 billion. Let's say they pay you $1 billion for Kyle Parco. You could say, well, that's not worth it. And what if I said, yes, but it's somebody else's money, and they're going to put the $1 billion back in the account after this year. So it's not your money. It's like fantasy.
Yep. Yeah. No.
So.
Speaking of transferring and recruiting, Bo Bassett.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
mm-hmm.
You've wanted to talk about this for weeks.
I have, because, Bo does a lot of self-promotion. There's a lot of stuff out there, and 5 a.m. training and and Rudis, and he's busy. He's active on social media, right? He's been since, I don't know, but maybe even before he was in high school. And some people look at that as, some people say he's overboard with his social media. But he comes out with a school list, and then he comes out with his call list, and he makes it public. And there's these terrible takes on Twitter, on Instagram, on message boards. One, that Bo is attention whoring, including a guy, a turd that uses my logo like an idiot, like a poser. What a piece of crap. And he says he's attention whoring. No, it's relevant news. That's the one thing that's not attention whoring. That's the one thing that's relevant as hell.
By the way,
that's the one thing that's actually newsworthy.
These losers.
Bassett let you in on his process and what's going on. So I just think they're all losers. And there's people on all the message boards saying, "Oh well, does Bo fit our program, or is he too much about himself and his own image, and does he place himself above a program?" And what are you talking about?
You know what his post is? This is why those people don't understand marketing and branding. Number one, the people crying and complaining don't ever have attention, and they're jealous that he's getting attention. Number two, is he good for the program? Let's look at this with facts. Bo Bassett has 107,000 followers on Instagram. You know what his post was in his story today? Get your gear for Bishop McCourt. Good for your program. He's putting a QR code to go buy apparel for his team to over 100,000 people. If you want to go sell something, do you have 100,000 people you can go push the message to? There's value there.
But what 100%. But their response to that would be, their main import is, but is he more about himself than the team chemistry, than the doing it for the Hawkeyes, or doing it for the Nittany Lions, or is he about Bo Bassett himself? And that's just a stupid proposition. I mean, Bo mentors already at this young age. Bo mentors a lot of people. Bo does a lot of stuff for his team and his program.
100%. He's a team guy. Go back. I just had him on the podcast
he's
2 weeks
a team
ago.
Guy. And
go
you know
listen.
what? Did Spencer Lee? Was Spencer Lee bad for Iowa? Spencer Lee had wasn't as active on social media and stuff, but Spencer Lee in interviews have said, the team does one thing, work out, and I do another thing. And guess what? Things worked out just fine. Mm-hmm. Right? So I don't get the does Bo Bassett want or need special treatment? To me, that's bizarre.
I think Bo Bassett is learning at a young age responsibility, maturity, from having an audience, from having sponsors, working with Max Effort Muscle and Rudis and all these different companies. He's learning about being a team player, and he's learning about being responsible and having responsibilities. I'm all in on the Bo Bassett train. All in.
I mean, to me, he's a 17-year-old, 18-year-old kid that's a pro already. He's already a pro, right? Yep. And so, I mean, when you talk about is Bo going to be accountable? I mean, is there anybody more accountable in high school wrestling than him? I mean, that's where I'm at.
Yeah. And look at even this is a silly reference for some, but I reference this with real world agency stuff. Go look at Bo Bassett's Instagram profile. It says God First, Team USA, Rudis, Bishop McCourt, and his girlfriend. Nothing about his accolades. He's talking about his team, his sponsors. Yeah, forget the Bo Bassett haters. By the way, I love what he did too, where he posted like, "I took a couple schools off the list." Great, keep narrowing it down. Build the excitement, build the hype. I love it.
Yeah, I hope he continues to do so, and doesn't get dissuaded by idiots.
Yeah, no, I agree. Seems like he's got good people around him that are guiding him in the right direction. I think he's doing a good job. The internet is a very miserable place.
Right.
A lot of miserable people on the internet. A lot of good guys on the internet, but a lot of miserable people.
What is your way too early assessment? I see a growing number of people. It's really funny because I think the Penn State message boards, part of the Penn State message board saying, well, does he fit and this and that, and I think that's almost. So there was this narrative that I espoused in that I think it's going to be Penn State, and if it's not Penn State, I think it's probably Ohio State.
Or Oklahoma State.
I think that was agreed. I think, or Oklahoma State in the mix too. And I think that was that narrative, that thought, that thinking was sort of agreed upon. I think people were like, "Yeah, Willie, you're probably right. You're close with Rudis at Ohio State. He's a Pennsylvania boy. He's not far from Penn State. Penn State's doing the best." Makes a lot of sense. Then actually Flo did a podcast, and across the board they said they think he's going to go to Iowa, which is like, to me, it was like, what are you talking about?
I don't see him at Iowa.
To me, if they would have said Iowa is in play, I would have been like, okay, fair enough. If you think Iowa's in play, I can get on board with that. But for them to unilaterally, across the board, say Iowa is going to be it for Bo, I'm like, what the hell are you talking about?
Yeah, I don't agree with that.
And so right after that is when on the Penn State message boards are like, does Bo really fit here? And I think that's a little bit of hedging. I think that's a little bit now. It's a small sector of the fan base, but I think it's some of the more active, passionate guys trying to brace themselves to like, oh my God, Flo said Iowa. What if Bo doesn't come here? Well, let's sort of hedge and say, would it be the end of the world? Of course, it would not be the end of the world. And of course, but you don't need to say he might not fit because he's too much about himself. Now, right? It's just ridiculous. And the narrative, or the justification, the rationale for why would Bo go to Iowa? Well, Bo would like to be the face of a program and not just another David Taylor, not just another Ed Ruth,
Sure.
not just Zane Rutherford. Yeah, I don't buy that.
No,
I just don't buy that.
I think my three that I really Penn State, I think, has to be a heavy favorite with their success and their popularity. I think Oklahoma State, with everything they have going on, with David Taylor going there, and Kennedy and Gilman being good coaches, and then Ohio State with the Rudis play, they have a young team. So I think those are the three schools that I'd be very surprised if you didn't end up at one of those three. Those are the top three. So I would not put Iowa in the top three, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, if they're in the mix, wouldn't be surprised. But I certainly wouldn't put him as the leader, and like not as a foregone conclusion as Flo did. Now Fellers is of the opinion. I mean, Feller's been telling me, Willie. We had a conversation the other day. He said, Willie, they're not going to miss on these guys. They're not going to miss. They're not going to be missed. And we're talking, and I'm like, what do you mean by miss? He's like, they will outbid everybody. And I said, okay, outbid does not mean land.
Mm-hmm.
You know? And so I really think that I was in a great position where they have this war chest. Especially, and I said this 2 years ago when Iowa message boards are like sort of melting down. Like, well, Penn State's paying all these guys money, and this school's paying money, and this school's offering this, and this school's offering that. How are we going to compete? How are we going to compete? I said, guys, you're looking at this all wrong. You just raised independently $25 million for a new facility. When that check clears, you're going to raise another $25 million for NIL. You're going to be in the pole position. And guess what's happening now? Guess what's happening now? Iowa has a war chest bigger than anybody's. Money is not money will not be the problem at Iowa. They have the money to get anybody, including Bo Bassett.
Yeah, I don't think money's going to be an issue.
D. Lockett. Let's talk about D. Lockett for a second, because D. Lockett was training in Ames last week. All last week. So, that started like a little internet. I knew he was going. I knew he was going to the thing, and I was like basically sitting back and waiting, like, wrestling small. Somebody's going to find out about this, right? And it wasn't until like Wednesday or Thursday that people started posting on the boards, somebody enormous is training in Ames, and the Cyclone board was like, hey, we got a chance to flip somebody. People were trying to figure it out. And then, of course, it comes out, because it's going to come out. Like Kane Nactiborn, who's going to be a freshman at Iowa State, Snapchatted a picture of him in D, right? So it comes out. It's going to come out. And so you have to ask, is D. Lockett still 100% to Oklahoma State? And D did make a tweet that said a lot of rumors going around and this and this and that. He didn't say, still 100% committed or anything like that. So there's some rumors, and
I'm also hearing a lot of what we're going to call this the rumor show. I'm hearing a lot of Chris Perry to Iowa State rumors as well.
I think that could happen. I don't think it'll happen officially this year or this season. He's still getting still under contract in some form or fashion. He's still getting paid by Oklahoma State for one season. So for Chris, he can kind of sit back and collect a check and decide what he's going to do. He can slow play it for a year. So I think it's in play. I think it would be a perfect fit. I think Dresser and Perry would be a good match.
And you saw Carroll go over to Iowa State. Rumors
Yeah.
of D. Lockett maybe going to Iowa State.
Yep.
Yeah. Hey, I got a question. I want to, because we're kind of doing like a catch-up type show, there's been half a dozen or so coaching hires in the last couple of weeks that I don't know if you touched on. So let's run through them real quick.
I have not really.
Hayden Hidley, who was at North Dakota for a year, is now going to take the assistant coach job at Stanford. Ryan Deacon, who was there for a little bit, is basically going to get out of wrestling coach and go into financing. I
thought it took quite a while for the Hayden Hidley news to get released. I had talked to Hayden quite a bit ago, and he had a lot of options on the table. He had a lot of job offers. Frankly, I've never heard I've never talked to anybody that's been in coaching for 1 year and had the number of offers that he had. He had quite a bit and several really attractive ones. But the Stanford thing was done quite a while ago, but it took a long time for it to get released. In fact, when it was posted, I had forgot all about it. It was a done deal like a month ago.
Yeah.
So I thought that was a little weird, but you know what? I didn't realize it was Deacon. That to me it was really interesting because Chris Ayers had called me. Chris Ayers called me about some recruiting stuff. We were just shooting the breeze, and I said something about Hayden, and he was like, "How the hell do you know that?" And I was like, "Yeah, buddy." I was like, he's like, "That is insane that you know that." And I'm like, "Yeah, but like, I don't understand what position he's taking." And he's like, "Oh man," he's like, "I'm sorry, I just can't tell you, Willie. I can't tell you." He's like, somebody on our staff's getting out of wrestling, but I can't tell you who. I just, I want to, but So I wasn't sure who the heck it was.
Yeah, when Deacon came on Baschamania a couple of years ago, he said like he didn't know how long he was going to hang around the sport for. He wants to do other things. So good for him for not, if your heart's not in it and you want that route of.
And here's another thing, because when somebody hits me with that, like my wheels start spinning. So like somebody on their staff, okay, is it Sean Gray? No, Sean just got there. Like, why would he leave? Is it Deacon? No, it's not Deacon. You know why it's not Deacon? Because Deacon called me like 3 days before and said, "Hey, come to our golf outing." I'm like, if my man's getting out of the sport, he ain't calling me to go to a golf outing.
That's a good employee. That's a good employee running through even to the end.
Yeah. So that's why another reason why I didn't think it was Deacon. But
yeah, so that's a good move. Donnie and his head coach at Columbia.
Yup, and it's a long time coming. And Donnie to Columbia, finally getting his head coaching gig. First of all, I love it for the Ivy League. He's a very stable coach. Time will tell what their ceiling is, but their floor should be high, right? They're going to be coached up. They're going to be buttoned up. They're going to be a professionally run program. So that's great news. But Donnie finally getting his head coaching gig makes me want to like revisit and say, and I already got the names. I already got the names in a list, and I'm going to write an article on. Okay, now what's the list of the top assistants candidates for a head job, right? Because it was always Donnie. Donnie led that category for a decade. But yeah, and it was good. He was North Jersey, and
he's been at Cornell for Rutgers for a decade. He's been there a long time.
Has he been there that long?
Yeah.
So then he was at top of that list for like 15 years. So and his daughter actually is in 8th grade, and she got accepted to this like premier ballet school in the city. And so it made perfect sense for him,
Yeah. Some other ones. David McFadden is going to continue training at Cornell, volunteer assistant coach over at Cornell.
Great hire, great fit, especially for the title and the role that they desired. David is just a class A individual. Yep. And hard worker, and he's going to do what Cornell wants him to do, and he's going to probably train a lot with Yanni, and I think it's a perfect fit there.
Yeah, Wisconsin added Tony Cassiope. That was another one that got out there. They told me when they told me when it was gonna happen, and all of a sudden it started leaking out. And I'm like, well, I'm not gonna. I try not to put anything out, especially when the coaches tell me like, hey, we're making this move. If you want to, have a graphic ready, I try not putting it out until they announce it. It's crazy how things just get out there.
Dude, it's a catch-22 for me, because it's like, it's great to be the first to know. Mm-hmm. It's awesome to be the first to know. But it's like, if you're the first to know and they tell you like, hey, Will, I got to tell you something. I'm going to do this, but please don't say anything. Like, okay, cool. I'm the first to know. Or like, among the first to know. And then like it comes out like 2 weeks later and you're like, man, I wish I could have announced that. I wish I could have broke that, but it's like the ones that you're informed of late that you break. But I think Cassiope is an awesome dude. I think it's a perfect fit. He's not, grew up not far from Madison. Should be a great partner for Braxton Amos and in perpetuity at for the upper weights at Wisconsin. I think it's a great fit. Yeah. Connections to Illinois with the hotbed.
And then we got Dean Heil to George Mason and Doug Zapp to Penn. Or staying at Penn, really, because he was...
Yeah, guess who made that happen? Dean Heil.
To George Mason? Was that a Willie the Brain puppet strings?
That was a Willie the Brain. Dean, I was down at Okie State. I was down at Okie State for the Okie State Iowa Duel. And Dean was down there. And I was talking to him a little bit. And I'm not sure if he told me then or he DM'd me, but he was like, hey, if you know of any jobs. And then Beasley at George Mason hit me up. He said, hey, you got anybody? You know anybody? I need a coach. I said, hey, I know a guy that'd be perfect for you. Dean Heil. And boom. I think it's a great hire. Who was the last one?
Doug Zapp just graduated. He's going to stick around Penn. And I put it out there a while ago. We didn't really talk about it, just to mention it because he's going to come on soon. Chenzo to UNC to head up the RTC. I'm super excited about that.
I got new information on that. You better text your boy, because I think I was told yesterday, 2 days ago, that they are changing his role to director of recruiting.
That'd be good for him. I mean, I still think he's going to be involved in the RTC, even if the title changes.
Sure. Sure.
We were talking some RTC stuff the other day, but yeah, listen, he's great in any role. I'm happy to have him back on the East Coast, selfishly.
Well, I'll tell you what, when I was at, so Stanford's about to die. They hire Rob Cole. Okie State's going to wrestle there. It might have been the first duel of the year. And Rob was like, I was talking to Rob, and he's like, hey, you should come out, man. You should come out. Use all the support we get. All right, yeah, I'll come out. Went out to Stanford Okie State duel. I was really impressed with Chenzo was on it. Like, Chenzo was busy as hell.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Chenzo was running the room, right? Chenzo was on top. I was impressed with him and Grant.
Yeah, Grant's in Texas now doing great things. So yeah, that's kind of the coaching rundown. What did you think of Barry Davis to Navy? And that happened like a month and a half ago, it feels like now.
Yeah, I don't know what happened there with Mike Evans. But Mike Evans not on staff anymore. Barry Davis, to me, kind of came out of nowhere.
Right? That's what I thought.
Like, I didn't know that Barry Davis was still active, but Barry Davis, to me, that Iowa wrestling stuff runs really deep. And if you ever noticed his mannerisms and just how Barry is, he's like a Mark Manning and a Tom Brands, where he's a million miles an hour and he's so passionate that it does not surprise me that Barry still has the itch to coach, because he's a guy that I don't know him too well, but he, to me, looks like in the same vein as Manning and Brands, and just lives it. And not surprising he's still got that hunger.
Yeah, and one of the last things I wanted to bring up as we start to wind the show down, MMA. A lot of MMA news lately. Forrest Molinari announced she's transitioning into MMA. I think that's an incredible move. She's one of the toughest women in the sport, and I think she's going to do incredibly well. Jason Nolf also doing a lot of grappling. He's doing a invitational in August where there's $1 million cash prize. Million.
Jason?
Correct.
Dude, Pat Downey this morning tweeted that he's invited.
Yes,
Is it true?
They put it out. I saw his name.
Really?
Yep.
What organization is it?
You want to know the funny thing about that? They're in the same weight class. So we could see a Nolf versus Downey in a grappling match at 80 kilos.
Nope. 80 kilos is 176. Pat ain't making no 176.
I was when I saw 80 kilos, I did a double take. I'm like, that seems light for Pat. For Nolf, it makes perfect sense. 79 kilos where he's going to wrestle, non-Olympic weight. Okay, 80 kilos. I'm like, Downey, 80.
Yeah, I don't know if Pat can make 176, dog. That dude wrestled 197 in college. But I do like I'm down to watch Pat do anything. But what organization is it?
It's called the Craig Jones Invitational.
Oh, that's Craig Jones?
Yes.
Craig Jones is crazy. He's from Australia. He came out of nowhere. Back when I worked at Flow, we had the rights to ADCCs. I think they still do. ADCCs, which only comes along every 2 years. And he sort of came out of nowhere. I don't know if he won it that one year, ADCCs, but he has since broken off. And he was tweeting some crazy stuff the other day. Like, so he went and started this thing, right? Mm-hmm. And apparently, like, the ADCC, which is like some hardcore dudes in like Abu Dhabi, apparently they sent him like death threats. Like, you're not starting another event to compete with us.
Damn.
And apparently he is.
Yeah, so $1 million cash prize. Could we see Nolf versus Downey for $1 million?
No, so is it one weight?
I don't think.
Or is it $1 million per weight class, or?
Well, okay, hold on. I don't follow grappling, so I'm figuring this out. Wait a minute.
I know something about it. I'm not.
Oh, time out. So I'm coming back from this. I'm seeing something now that I just missed in the graphics. Pat Downey, his graphic says plus 80 kilos. Nolf says minus 80 kilos. So are they doing an over 80 and an under 80 kilo division?
Probably.
And each is $1 million? That would make more sense.
Yeah. I bet you that's what it is.
I missed the plus minus. Those getting excited for Nolf versus Downey. Thank God I didn't tweet that yet, because that was going to do that after the show. So that makes sense. Yeah, so Downey's in the 80 kilos and over, Nolf's in the 80 kilos and under. Okay.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And when is that?
That is August 5th, I believe.
August 5th. Cool. Where is it at? Is it in Wisconsin?
I don't know.
That's pretty cool. One other thing I wanted to bring up. Okay. What? A couple quick topics at the
Oh,
end.
it's in Vegas.
Is it August 5th in Vegas?
I think it's the 5th. I'll have to look. We might have to
that's
pop out there for that. Is that the day before the Olympics starts?
I was going to say that's right around the Olympics.
I-
Hey, if you go to Vegas for Nolf, I'll go.
That might be fun. Let me text Bashada, because if he goes, they'll get fellers to go. And that'll be...
We're
Well,
rolling dice then, baby.
Let's go watch the Olympics in Vegas. That'd be a good time.
We got to make sure Downey gets on the scale.
Listen, we can get press credentials for this.
Yeah,
We'll go report on the wrestlers at the event.
exactly.
Done. We gotta make that happen.
We got to make that happen.
What were your
I wonder
tidbits?
Tidbits. Did you pay attention to any of the pro stuff that was this week or the past 2 weeks? They had this one called CFA. It was a lot of PA centric Jersey guys, and then there was this one this weekend. There was a lot of Virginia people. It was called Claw, and to me, man, wrestling just keeps getting it wrong. They keep getting it wrong with these things. I don't think it's well thought out. It's certainly not well executed. I think they have the right intentions, but I think it's a bad look. I think wrestling needs a pro league in the worst way. I think there's a super easy, viable path to getting there. I know the money is there for it to make it happen, and they keep getting it wrong. And they keep losing money. And every time a pro league fails, it makes other people that think about a pro league take a step back and say, it's not viable. And it is viable if you do it right. It's 100% viable. In fact, you could kill it. You could crush it. I'm telling you right now, you could make money doing it. But they keep getting it wrong. I mean, listen, say it out loud. The first thing, they didn't have a live stream.
Well,
they didn't have a live stream. Neither one of them had a live stream.
The CWA did, but it was a pay-per-view.
Oh, was it?
And I'm like, listen, I'm all for supporting people that are trying to do wrestling, and I was looking for the pay-per-view, couldn't find it.
I was told neither had a live stream. I was told neither had a live stream, but they had the videos up afterwards. But I don't know. Either way,
CWA I know did have a pay-per-view. I couldn't find it that day, and I didn't see it. And you know, I had a couple people like DMing me about it, asking my thoughts. I'm like, listen, if it takes off, great. I'm like, I don't like just promoting anything and everything that somebody does. I try to toe that line. You know, I want to be supportive of people who are trying to do things. I also am just like, it's kind of hard to promote it without just straight shilling it. Where if you're in the crypto world, you know what shilling is. You know, it's like...
Yeah, listen, here's where I'm at. And people reach out to me nonstop to, hey, promote this. Hey, help our brand. If you tweet something, it'll help our brand. And like, hey, sponsor a hole at a golf tournament. Hey, tweet out our raffle, or like everything under the sun. Nobody reached out to me with this, but sometimes, a lot of times I say no to things, and I probably would have said no to this, because I don't want to promote something that I don't think is going to be sustainable. And these things now, they say they're going to have a league, a whole season in 2025, and I just don't see it being viable. I even think the founders, I think, are financially pretty well off. I think the seed money is there. I think the financial backing is there, but the model isn't right. And so they're just going to hemorrhage money. And it's the same. And this is not personal. I do not think that is a sustainable model. And the same way, I love everything that Art Marturi has done. I love everything that Dave Barry has done. I love everything that Andy Barth has done. I love everything that these mega donors that have helped wrestling. God bless them. I'm so thankful for them. At the same time, they're missing a golden opportunity. They are. It is charity. It is charity. And at some point, charity dries up. What they should be doing is using that money to build something that generates positive everything for the sport in perpetuity. And they don't do that. They just give, and then it's gone. Give, and then it's gone. Here's money for plane tickets. Boom. Poof. Gone. When they could be taking those millions and millions that they've given over the years and creating a system that works.
Yeah, I agree. In seeing these events come and go, I was a little bit underwhelmed. Not that the effort wasn't there. I'm sure the effort was there. I personally was underwhelmed.
They definitely put effort in. Like I said, I mean, they paid for Shane Sparks. They paid for a production thing to come. They paid for mascots and fuzzy costumes. But the model's not right. And they didn't even get a live stream on. So,
well, the one I think did have a pay-per-view.
I'm talking about the one that's
the
one that's supposed to have a season next year.
The claw
did not.
Yeah. Yeah, they need to call the brain.
Yeah.
All right. What else? You got any other tidbits?
No, there's a couple other topics we could hit on, but maybe we do a show at another time. We've been running.
Well, listen. This is the other thing we got to do. We've been going for an hour and 11 minutes. We're gonna try. We're maybe gonna try to start. To start being consistent because people are asking for some consistency. So
yeah.
We're gonna try to get a time.
You know what? My plate is clean now. As far as getting all the big boards out of the way, new rankings come out tomorrow, which was a whole lot of work because I did not update them as regularly as I typically do because of all the recruiting stuff. But in the duration, there was Ultimate Club duels, National Freestyle duels, NHSCA duels, all the regional freestyle events, junior duels, cadet national duels. So there was a lot. There was a lot going on, and so it's a big update. And I got them done, and so my schedule's open, buddy.
Well, we'll figure something out. That's today's show. Comment and tweet us if we did a weekly show, what day you would want it to be if it was your way. Let us know your desired day. Do you want to start the week off? Do you want to end the week? Do you want a midweek? Like, give us a little bit of insight. Tweet us, comment us, and we'll see what we can do to make it happen. Now's the time to implement it before the fall.
Yeah,
because once the fall starts, it's the wild, wild west.
Yeah.
All right, that's the show. That's Bash in the Brain.
And the beat goes on.